A lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippy Canoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME Scoops.com.
Hey boys and girls, we are going to talk about S&W shooters and prospectors. What is S&W shooters and prospectors?
We at S&W Shooters and Prospectors help people find treasure.
Did you say treasure?
Yes, treasure. Just listen to this amazing review from our happy customer, Jackie Sparrow.
Chuck was ship-shape and a pleasure to deal with. I was able to buy everything that I needed at prices that were shillings less than others. I found my 9 pieces of 8 in no time. Savvy?
I know you're asking yourself, why should I shop at S&W Shooter and Prospectors?
Chuck Smalley has over 45 years of metal detecting experience. He works with each customer one-on-one to customize their setup to match their skill level.
So if you always dreamt of being a pirate, contact Chuck at S&W Shooters and Prospectors and he'll take a great deal for you.
Eye patch and rum not included.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show. All right, the fine print's out of the way. It's time to roll with the show. We're back. We're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And some of us are definitely a little cooler than others. It's still cold up here in the north, I'm telling you. But that's all right. We see everybody dropping into the chat. Good to see, definitely. Usual suspects in the links in the chat and in the description. Florida Hunt 8 group's still in there. Obviously, Terry Shannon's website still in there. Midwest Refineries, Shooters and Prospectors, A.I.P, XTREME Scoops, DETECTEES, TheRingFinders, all of that. It's the YouTube channels, the Facebook groups, it's all still there. So tonight, actually, speaking of Florida Hunt 8 in hopes of warmer weather, we're 12 days out and counting. Also, I see Bill Hayes in the chat. Congratulations to him on his win earlier this evening over in the All Metal Militia Facebook group. Those that missed that may want to go and check that out as well. So, obviously, tonight we've got a return guest that always very happy to have him back on the show, happy to speak with him. He's always got such good stories to share, and I can see from the chat that everyone else is once again looking forward to it as well. We've got Terry Shannon on to discuss some of his adventures again, and his third book now was recently released, Treasure Coast, Adventures of Metal Detecting Adventures Along Florida's Treasure Coast. And you can find his books if you check out the link for his website. You will see his books there. That'll lead you over to Amazon where you can purchase them there. Or if you're attending Florida Hunt 8, he will be there, I'm sure, sharing some of his stories. His books will be available there as well, and he may even be signing them. So let's get him in here. How is it going tonight, Terry? How is the weather in Florida? Right. Right. Yeah, I can definitely understand that for sure. And I got, yeah, I mean, it surprises me the number of people that don't realize how much the beach conditions can change even day to day. And a lot of people learned a lot from your first book, I do believe.
Come back.
Right. Yeah, I had to change a setting there. Something happened on my screen when I wasn't looking. Not sure what the deal was. But yeah, I mean, it can change daily, and sometimes even, like you said, more than once a day. Sometimes it changes with the tides. And it was amazing.
It really does.
It was amazing the amount of feedback that I saw, even from people that maybe they hadn't been exposed to beach hunting, or maybe they had, and they purchased your first book, and they're like, wow, look at all of this information I've been able to glean. It really not for very much of a price. These books are very, very well priced.
I really wish that I could afford to have them printed with in color. It loses a lot on the pictures and that stuff. But thank you for the kind words, Josh. I really appreciate that.
Well, yeah, everybody always likes color photos, but a lot of us, we can just imagine what those would have been like in color. And I don't know, some people may not realize, but there's many of us out there that do. The cost to have these published with color photos, it goes up exponentially.
Big time, big time. And that cuts out just an awful lot of people. There's a new book that come out right now. It's in color, and I think it's selling for about $45. And I'm really debating whether I'm going to buy it or not. That's just an awful lot of money for a book.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. And I'm sure that even if some people would love to see the photos in color, I'm sure they're willing to put up with the monochrome or black and white photos, if you will, in lieu of the information that they gain, the entertainment that they gain for the price that they pay for the book.
Yeah, I talked to another fellow author a couple of weeks ago, and he has a book out, and his was in color, and his was printed at a private printing place. And I've been thinking, maybe, I have no contracts or anything like that. Maybe I could, I was going to look into seeing if I could get a few of them printed in color. And then if you wanted color, it would be available. So that's something I'm going to look into.
Oh, nice. Well, that is very good. Definitely.
Well, if it worked out, it's just a thought. It's just really a thought. But, what I wanted to do, I love this hobby, and this hobby has been so good to me. And really, Josh, the best treasure out there is the health benefits that you get by being out and walking and that. And then the friends you meet. My golly, the amount of friendships that I've developed over the years with that metal detector, because of that metal detector, it's just astounding. I feel so blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have made a boatload of extremely nice finds. And I mean, over the years, the number of friends, it's just, wow, the treasure's nice, don't get me wrong, but the friends you've made over the years and now pretty much all over the place, you're considered a legend.
There was a fellow that come down, Ed Hoffman, and he did 3 videos. He was going to meet me. On the way down, he started out the video, said he was going to meet the legend Terry Shannon. The legendary Terry Shannon. And that stuck. And it's almost embarrassing because I'm far from a legend, that I'm just a guy that likes to talk a lot. And I love the metal detect. It's just, and I've been blessed. I've been really lucky. If you're out there enough, I have a real advantage over many people because I'm living right on the Treasure Coast. I'm retired. I can go every day and almost always do, actually.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you really are, in a sense, living the dream.
Yes, I am. No question about it. And I've been watching on my phone, I have an app that tells me the temperature back home. I used, and I lived in Minnesota. I was actually the county sheriff up there in Becker County. And those poor guys, I think there was one day last week it was minus 33 below zero. And that was actual. That was not with the wind chill. So
you're down there in Florida going, I'm not seeing a downside to this.
No, I've got the best of both worlds, and then when it gets hot in Florida, I'm up in Minnesota where the leaves are shining and the animals run free, and it's just, I've got the best of both worlds. The good Lord has really taken care of me.
Right, yeah, and to be able to enjoy the hobby for as many years as you have, and to have the success that you have had, I mean, you really are quite fortunate.
Yes, I am. And I'm learning things every day, too. Sometimes it amazes me how long it takes me to figure some things out. But, every day I'm out there, I learn something new. One of the things that it took me a long time to learn was how the moon affects, your detecting. A full moon, you'll get the tides come way up. And
right.
And the tide will go, way out. I mean, you get quite a bit. And, we were, a friend of mine and I were detecting, and we found 5 8 reals laying right on top of the sand. I found a beautiful 8 real, and my detector went over, and I looked down, I could see it. It was just laying right there. And,
right.
Afterwards, what we think happened is, during the full moon, the tides go way up, and it had gone way up. And then it was pretty high waves, but about every 10th wave or so, you get a big one. I call them a surge. And I think that was, blowing them in or out. And then what I figured out afterwards is, it was at the tail end of the new moon phase, see? And so every day after that, the tide didn't come up quite as far. And I had to, so that meant, from the full moon, I had to the new moon. I had a 2-week period where the tide isn't going to go way up there again. And so I just concentrated hunting high, and I just did really well. So it just, figured things out,
Yeah, exactly. And it takes people a while to catch on to that whole, plus and minus tides. And it amazes me, too, with people that say, oh, yes, I'm a water hunter, and they hunt primarily fresh water. They don't realize how much of a different game it is to play the tidal game when they get out someplace where they're fortunate enough to do the coastal hunting.
The tides really make a difference. When you have onshore winds, and like yesterday I got all excited. They were, on the TV, they were saying that beware of the riptides. And a riptide is where the waves come in and then it kind of forms a river and rushes out. And if you get caught on them, they say swim sideways. Don't try to fight that current. But what that riptide does is it washes away the shore and it forms a kind of a depression. I call them a bowl, and all of those things can be just phenomenal. I mean, that's so what I do, in my detecting is every day, when I go out, unless I know that there's a certain spot, I'll go up and down and look at the beaches, looking for that low area. And, I'd rather spend 2 hours looking for a spot than 1 hour hunting where it's just really treasure rich than spending 3 hours out there, getting just an occasional coin or something.
Exactly. And that's kind of, making your environment work for you.
Yeah. I like to follow the tides out because as the tides recede, I try to get out 3 hours before high tide or low tide, I mean. Yep. And I follow the waves. You're going to get wet. But as the tide goes down, it's dropping sand, and by doing this, you can, you can get to areas that you normally wouldn't do, but you're going to get wet. But I was kind of chuckling there, I have to tell her. One day I was going out, the waves did not look bad, and I was going to go actually out in the water and wade a little bit. And I just got out there a little ways, and I looked up, and here's this big wave coming and smacked me, and I rolled over backwards. Yeah, I just rolled over backwards, and I get up, and I'm sitting and sputtering, and this old fellow, probably my age, come running down, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm right, and I'm getting ready to go back out there, see." And he said, "Boy, are you ever determined?" Then he got right in my face, and he said, "Have you found Jesus?"
Wow. Yeah, and I would do the same thing. I mean, when I'm actually coastal hunting, because I'll hunt freshwater or coastal, and when I'm coastal hunting, that's what I'll do is I'll check the tides. I've got an app on my phone. It'll tell me the tides, whether they're plus or minus, show up a while before the tide goes out and chase it out and then let it chase me back. And then once the tide's back in, that's it. I'm done until the next low tide.
That's what I do too. And the other thing, we should mention is, have a good detector. That makes all the difference. It just.
Oh, absolutely. It makes a world of difference.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I went out and there was a cut. This is where the wind was coming out of the northeast, and then it cut. So there's a big steep bank, and there was a guy and his wife in there, and it was one of my favorite beaches, and they're detecting, and there's no way, that I'm going to try to jump ahead of those people. So, but I really wanted to detect it. So I walked down and I introduced myself, and I said, "I really love detecting here." I said, "Would you mind if I went behind you?" They said, I won't, And they were really nice. See, so I walked, I bet you, 500-600 yards, south or north, actually, of them. They were heading to the south. and started detecting. They had already been there. And, I'm just digging steady, doing really well. And all of a sudden the guy was right there. And he said, what are you doing, And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're digging all steady and we haven't found anything. And I looked and they had these real cheap detectors they bought at Walmart. And I said, let me show you something. And I took a coin and I buried it, down about 8 inches. And I took my detector, took the headphones off, and ran it over and made a loud noise. And I said, now run your detector over it. And the guy reached over, shook my hand. He said, we are heading to Walmart to take these things back.
Clearly we've seen the difference a good machine can make.
Yeah, and they pay for themselves. My detectors don't owe me a thing. I mean, I've done really well, and my wife's actually done better.
Right? Yeah, she's got a lot of nice rings.
Yeah, she gets all the good ones. She doesn't detect, but she does really well, and it just makes my day when I find something, that she likes. I got a couple now in the last month. They're really nice gold rings that she's wearing right now as we speak.
Nice. Definitely. And speaking of the rings and some of the other items that you found, will you have any display cases with you at Florida Hunt 8?
I hadn't given that a thought. I can bring down, I have a small display case, and I can bring down a bunch of Spanish coins and some of them interesting. Yeah, I can bring some stuff down. I've really been lucky. I got a coin a couple of years ago. I don't know if I talked about it. It was a Spanish real, 2 real, and it's dated 1544. 1540 is a Carlos Nuana in beautiful shape. I can bring that coin. And I got a ring last year that goes with the old onion blossom design that goes back to the 1500s. So I had a couple
nice.
Really, yeah.
People would really enjoy seeing that.
Yeah. No, I'll bring a bunch of that stuff. I didn't even think about that. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, I know people would really like to see some of that, especially Chuck, I'm sure.
Yes, he's nice enough to invite me, and so, yeah, I'd like to do. I just love talking treasure. I really do.
Right.
I had a fellow last year at a Super Bowl party. A fellow come up. He was at the party. It was just one of the neighbors here, and everybody just had for the Super Bowl game and that. And he said he was active in this church, and he said, we have a church group. Would you mind speaking to the group? And I said, no, that'd be fun. I'd be glad to do it. So I said, just call. I give him my information. And so I was scheduled to start, I think, about 5 weeks ago. I forget, on Thursday mornings, 11 o'clock. So Wednesday, I happened to be on the beach, and I run into this other fellow detecting. He said, I signed up for one of your classes. And I said, what class? And I didn't realize it, but I had committed to teach an 8-week course at the church up there. And these are senior citizens, old folks, and I do believe that I'm probably the oldest one in there, And I figured I don't want to tie myself up for 8 whole weeks. It's only 1 hour a week. And I am having so much fun. These are the greatest people, and I hope they ask me to come back next year. I had one little old lady come up to me, and she said, I always sleep through these classes. She said, but nobody sleeps in your class, she said.
Well, you can't get a better compliment than that, right?
No, I mean, if I keep her awake, I'm doing well. I'm going to take a bunch of Spanish coins down to next Thursday. Now, I told them I'm going to do this, and told them to bring their cameras, and they can, hold a bunch of Spanish coins and take their picture with that.
I'll bet they'll get a kick out of that.
Yeah, it's something they can show. They're holding, probably, $10,000, $12,000 worth of, well, maybe more than that, of Spanish coins and that stuff, and you can just, it kind of gives you bragging rights, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that how many people actually have an opportunity presented to them where they can actually do that and hold a piece of history like that.
That's exactly what it is a piece of history. It just, when I find something old like that, the first thing I think of is, what's the story? I would just, who was the last person to touch this?
Exactly.
I love the history of it. It's fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Some years back, we were in Massachusetts and stopped by the Wit Pirate Museum. And while we were going through there, we got the opportunity to step into their conservation room. And they actually pulled out a couple of 8 reals recovered from the Witta and let us hold them and look at them and, kind of flop them around in our hands and all of that, get our pictures taken. And we really enjoyed holding the history. And we're like, wow, can you believe that this came off of a documented pirate shipwreck?
Yeah, isn't that neat? We have 2 museums here. Where you got the McLarty Museum, and that's state operated, and it's a treasure museum. And I was really honored to be one of their speakers a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm very active with that museum. But also we have the Mel Fisher Museum. Mel Fisher is a fellow that discovered the Atocha.
The Atocha and Margarita.
Yeah. And anyway, they carry my books now too, and it's so neat. I kind of got another story. I was on the beach with another fellow, and this young couple come up, and it was their very first day of detecting. And the gal, the wife, had bought her husband that detector. And they were both wearing coins, too, Spanish coins that they had bought at the museum. And the fellow with me, I'm wearing sunglasses and that, and a hat, and old clothes and that, and he introduced me to this couple. And this kid was just shocked. He said, Terry Shannon, he said, I just bought his book. And I said, where'd you buy his book at? And he bought it at the museum. He was the very first one that bought my first book that I brought down there. The first one that they sold for me. But anyway, they sold out right away, and my wife and I were down there Friday and brought a bunch more books down. And we got to know Nicole Fisher quite well and that stuff. And they invited us back into the back room where they're doing the salvage, not the salvage, but the
conservation. Yeah,
conservation of that stuff. And I mean, I'm in hog heaven when I get to see all that. I mean, I was holding an old rifle, and it's just fun. It's just really, I just love that old stuff.
Right? Yeah. I mean, many of us do. That's why I said if you've got a display that you can take with you for Florida Hunt Aid, I'm sure there's going to be people that want to see that and will get such a kick out of it.
I will bring a bunch of stuff down. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It just, I need all the help I can get. And I appreciate it, Josh. Really do.
Well, it's one of them things, sometimes people don't think about that. I mean, primarily, I know you're there to sign books. You'll have your books with you and everything and sharing stories, but sometimes, a few finds to go along with that just really ties it all together.
It does, and it's fun. It's just fun. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I'll make sure that I have a display put together, and thank you.
And it maybe it encourages people, gives them something to kind of strive for. I want to find one of those.
Yeah, that's what they're out at. That's what I wanted. I wanted one so bad. I wanted Spanish. The way it started, my wife had surgery, many, many years ago, and she was supposed to take it easy. And at that time, we had a little tiny motorhome, and so we left Minnesota and we come down to Florida, and we went down the West Coast, and we went across Alligator Alley, and then up the East Coast there, and we stopped at the McLarty Museum. And my gosh, talk about get the fever, all that treasure there and that stuff. And I asked the ranger, I said, are they still finding that stuff? And he had a scrapbook there. And if you found something, you could bring it into the museum. They would take your picture and put it in their scrapbook. And that was it. My obsession was to get into that scrapbook. And I was still working. It was many years later that I finally retired that I was able to get down there. The first year, I didn't get anything. What happened is that my son lived in Texas, and we were going to Texas, and of course, I'm detecting down there and did fair. but she wanted to fly over to Japan to visit our youngest son. He married a Japanese girl. And I said, would you mind flying out of Orlando? I said, I want to detect the treasure coast. And that was my shot to get that Spanish coin and get in that book. And it didn't happen. But when she landed the airplane, I picked her up at the airport. I said, we're not leaving. And we've been back here every winter since. Took me 2 years, but I finally got that first coin.
You sure did give it a try anyway, though.
Well, it was terrible. When I say terrible, they had a big storm, and I was down at a place called Bond Steel, and there's 5 guys from the East Coast from over there, and I think they found 5 reals. I'm right beside them, and I never found anything. It took me to the second year before I finally got one. And I mean, this is a lot of hunting.
Right.
Another thing is, after that first year or two, I joined a metal detecting club down here. It's Treasure Coast Archaeological Society, TCAS, and they have a hunt. In fact, they have their 34th annual hunt coming up on Saturday, March 12th, at Kiwanis Hobart Park, and it's just a fun time. But some of their top prizes are Spanish 8 reals, and I went to that hunt figuring. I told my wife, I said, "This is my last chance to get a real," and that didn't happen either. But the next year I did. I not only found one on the beach, but I won one at the club hunt.
Oh, even better. And it looked like, I hope I'm not wrong, but it looked like we had a caller trying to get through, and I've been able to get him on there. So we've got Chuck on with us.
Hey, how's it going, Terry, Josh, everybody out there?
Had you been trying to get into the show, Chuck?
Well, earlier I called you to tell you for about the first 3 minutes, 4 minutes, we couldn't hear Terry.
Oh,
at all.
Yeah, I saw that and rectified that. I don't know what happened. Everything was fine this afternoon. I walked away from the computer. I come back, get ready to do the show, and I just happened to look down after I went live, and I thought, wait a minute, where's Terry's channel? It's not showing up here. So I had to do some quick changes on the fly there while he was in the middle of his sentence.
Yeah. No, so. Terry, bring a display. We'll make room somewhere.
Okay, well, I'll put something together.
I'm really excited. By all means, we'd love to have that.
Yeah, I've got some real interesting stuff, and like I said, it's fun to talk treasure, and you really can't talk much about it. It's much better when
that's what we're there for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
In the afternoon, we got Michael, and we're going to be doing some gold panning with some folks. Anybody wants to stop by and do that? And we'll also have unsearched concentrates that have been sent to me, and they can pan and put a few bucks down and pan and keep the gold they find.
Nice.
Is Mark Hoover going to be there?
Yes, he will.
Yeah, Mark's going to be hanging out with Gary Petta down in their tent, and then we got the DA
at the
boys
Adventures in
us,
History
then,
booth.
We got a bunch of us along that one line there. You'll have plenty to talk to people about. If you bring that display, won't be able to beat them out of there with a stick.
Yeah, it'll draw them in like flies.
Well, the reason I asked about Mark, he's my mentor,
Oh, yes. I didn't know Mark was that much older than you.
Yeah, I think he's lying about his age,
So he's supposed to go up to Alaska with me this summer, so I should watch out for him, right?
Exactly. Although he's a pretty decent fellow. In fact, he's a great guy.
I know he is. But I'm not going to say that here.
Right, he may be listening.
You think? I see him on the chat there.
Well, yeah,
he said he told you to say that and he didn't think he'd do it. Well, I don't, there you go.
I see him in the chat, but sometimes we see people in the chat, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're listening.
Well, Lauren, I'll tell them next year when they do Florida Hunt 9 to put some online raffles on. She was asking if they would do raffles online for those who can't make it down to Florida.
You never know.
Yep, that's right.
As a matter of fact, there's one of those raffles going on this year, and maybe that's what she was wanting, is that the Adventures in History booth will be doing a raffle for a limited edition dive watch. And, I mean, people that have seen these watches that Mark donates to some of these events.
It was going to be a Rolex this year.
He had donated one to the I&I hunt back in 2017.
It was a very grand donation. Beautiful watch.
Yeah, people loved that watch. Everybody wanted a chance to win that watch. And they loved the watch last year. And I'm sure that they're going to want to get in this one too, because this one's got a mother of pearl face. And, actually, if the raffles reach $1,000, they'll add a second watch to the donations at the Adventures in History booth. Cool. And people that have seen these timepieces that Mark donates, I'm sure that probably won't be an issue to raise $1,000.
No.
They're phenomenal timepieces. That's kind of one of Mark's big niches, is the timepieces. He likes to collect timepieces, and he'll have Jimmy Crossbones with him in his booth, Jim Tippett. And Jim will have a display of items that he's found from the 1715 fleet there. Jim Terry may want to go over and check that out.
He has, hasn't he? Terry? I've
yes,
seen some
he
of
has.
the stuff he's found there online. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And Brandon Sutton will also be at that booth, and he'll be there talking with people, and I'm sure he'll be sharing some information about Treasure Fest that's coming up.
Good.
So,
what's coming up? I missed that, Josh. What was that?
Treasure Fest.
Okay.
It's in Arkansas.
Okay, yeah.
Which that has... there again, that's another event that once it started, it kind of got to growing, and has definitely grown in size and popularity as well. But I'm sure he'll be sharing information about that. This will be the 4th annual, so this will be Treasure Fest 4.
Okay. When I come, is it all right if I bring some flyers for our hunt down here for the TCAS hunt?
Yeah, set them up out there.
Yeah, I'll bring something. I mean, that's a great club, and they've treated me really well. And I've won about, I think, 3 or 4 detectors from that hunt, and I know that at least 3, maybe even 4 reals that I've won.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm luckier than most. See, I'm pretty short, so I'm closer to the ground. You know, and that makes a big difference.
Right. I did notice that on the cover of your book. That doesn't look like a very tall beach scoop.
I had to saw the handle off a bit because when I swung it around, it would hit under my armpit, and I had to saw it down and shorten it up a little bit. And yeah.
Looks like a nice scoop, though. That looks like one of the carbon fiber handles.
Yep, it is, and it's a great scoop. I mean, I had one that. What happened to me when I first started, before I even found my first coin, I had found a megalodon shark's tooth back in inland, not inland, but on the beach up in the dry sand. And this guy by the name of Reggie come by, and I showed him. I said, "Look at this shark's tooth. This is a big shark's tooth." And he said, "Where'd you find it?" And I pointed over to where I was at, and I was over there detecting. He went over there, and he came back about a half hour later with a Spanish coin, a 2 real. Now, he found it right where I was detecting. And at them days, I had the old MineLab Explorer, it had the numbers on it. So he put it down, and I run my detector over it, and green with envy, of course. And about a half hour later, right down to the water's edge, I got the exact same signal, and I did not have a scoop. I had a little Walmart shovel. I used to tie it on a string and drag it behind so I could see where I'd been. I thought I was so smart. Well, I'm digging like mad, just really digging. And finally, I holding the detector up, the waves are coming in, and I'm trying to dig this hole, and I got it out. I seen it fly out, and just then a great big wave come in, and it washed it right back down, and I was just stunned. If I'd have just stepped on it, but it went right back down the hole, and I never got it. Couldn't get it out.
Oh.
The very next day, I owned a scoop.
Right, going, that's enough of this. I need a scoop.
Yeah, that and a scoop is very important. And this one, I really enjoy it, too.
And you probably found out right quick that you can drag that along behind you, too, if you want, and mark where you've been.
Yeah. Yes, I can, That, having the right equipment, it just makes such a difference. It really does,
Yes, it does, and having good equipment.
Yeah, I've had several people come over to my place and want me to set up their detector and that. And it really puts me in a spot. I mean, if I had one, the last guy to come over, he paid $200 for his detector. He's going to find nothing. And I don't know, I told him, I said, I recommend you get a better detector. I said, the beach is highly mineralized, and what you really need, is something with a multi-frequency, because of the mineralization. But I just don't want to say, the thing you got there is not going to find anything. I just, you just hate that,
Right. Yeah, it'll still find stuff, but just not as well as the others.
That's right. And a lot of people have a pretty tight budget, and I tell them, save up some more and get a good machine, and we'll work with you as tight as we can, because I want you to succeed. You see so many of these, like you were saying, Terry, cheap detectors. They go out, they don't find anything, and they just decide this isn't for me.
They'll be much happier in the long run, and then that's somebody's closet that doesn't have a closet queen in it then.
Exactly. And I tell people, if money's tight, try to buy, pick up a used one. You can get a good used one for about half price, Right. And, if you're just starting out, you don't know if you're going to like it or not. I mean, I can see where you don't want to go out and spend $1,000,
Right. Yeah, definitely. So what, because this is your third book now, what inspired you to write this third one? Because it seems like you're slamming them out. You've got no plans of stopping anytime soon.
It's fun. It's just fun. And I have been so lucky out there. And like I said, I'm a storyteller. I just love to tell stories. And writing them down is just almost the same. And so what I do, and I have an email list of people, and I send out emails about my adventures and that stuff. So writing a book isn't that tough. All I have to do is go back and look at my emails and pick out some of the good ones and incorporate it in the book and just put it together. But this third book is kind of a continuation of the very first book. The second book, the very first one, Detecting the Treasure Code. The second one is Detecting the Otter Tail, which is back in Minnesota.
Yes.
And,
that's a good book.
Well, thank you. I love that. I grew up on that Otter Tail River. I played in that river as a kid, and I'm 80 years old now, and I'm still playing in that same river. I mean, that's kind of neat.
Yes, it is.
That sounds almost like Chuck, except he's still a kid and playing in it.
Yeah, that's right. Not right now. Not right now. We're not playing in it.
Well, no, it's too cold for that now. Way too cold for that.
Yeah. Well, if you're lucky, Chuck, you're not going to grow up. That's kind of a neat thing. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think he plans on it.
I'm not planning on it. Nope. I've got quite the trip planned this summer with 20 guys, and we're going to go have a good time regardless of what we find, and that ought to be interesting. So we'll keep you posted on that one. See, where you go out and you find your rails, I go out and find gold nuggets.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in my job jar, or not the job jar. What would you bucket list? That's on my bucket list. Yep.
Ah.
So that's the love of my treasure hunting, and I've done a lot of it, and I've come down to beaches and I found stuff on it, and I haven't been fortunate to get a Scoto or anything like that down there, but I'll tell you what, for a while there I thought I had the corner on 2-ounce lead sinkers. If those 2-ounce lead sinkers are white, stay right there. That's where you're going to find the Scotos and the Reals.
Oh, yeah.
And they were deep.
When I retired, Chuck, as sheriff up in Becker County, when I retired, I bought a flying fishing resort up in Pickle Lake, Ontario. And the only way to get into any of my camps was to fly, in the float planes and that. But they were, gold mining up there was a big, big deal.
Oh,
They
yeah,
had a lot of
hard
gold up there. Yeah, the Pickle Crow area and that stuff. And there was a lot of the pilots were stopping and visit, and they were telling me about this creek where you could actually find nuggets when you just wade the creek. You'll see someone. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's enough to get you excited. I never had a chance to do that.
So, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've done rather well at it. So it's a good thing, and it's the same thing there. You want to buy a good detector when you're up there, and your beaches, wherever you're at, you want to put yourself in the best detector you can afford at the time. Anyway, to get started. So you're out there finding something and not getting discouraged.
Right, and if you're lucky, it'll pay for itself, and maybe you get a little extra, and you can upgrade that machine.
That's very true. I started out with the top of the line detector because I was stupid. I bought a used detector for $75, and when I got it home, it had left the batteries in it. It was all corroded, and I cleaned it up. The guy said he'd give me my money back. I said, no, I want this detector, and I cleaned it up and got it working. I had to buy some extra wires, each little, when you plug the 9-volt battery. It was a Garrett Ace 150, I think it was. And I went out in my yard, and when I swing, as a detector went over the ground, right by the ground, it would make a beep. And I realized I was supposed to do that, but I took a step forward and made another beep, took another step forward. I took about 10 steps, and every time that coil got close to the ground, it beeped. And I got so mad, I figured, I want to do this. I'm entitled to do this. I've worked hard my whole life. I'm feeling sorry for myself. I got in my car, drove to Fargo, 50 miles away, and bought, a Mine Lab detector, the Mine Lab Explorer at that time.
Yep.
I go back,
But you
go
get
out in the yard.
Explorers had their nuances. Once you figured them out, they were a good machine.
Yeah. Well, the end of my story is I took it out there, and when I swung that Explorer, when I hit the ground, it made a beep. And what it was, I was standing right over the copper tubing that went from my fuel tank to my furnace. There was nothing wrong with that first detector, see? And what I ended up doing is starting out with the top-of-the-line detector because I was stupid. But it worked out really well because I started finding things right away, and it just kind of grew from there. But sometimes it pays to be kind of dumb,
Well, yeah, I mean, we all learn somehow.
Yeah, but when you get to be my age, most of your lessons are pretty expensive.
Well,
they are.
Yeah, I can relate with that too, and it's like you said earlier, you go out and you still learn something pretty much every day. And I've said before, if you get to a point in the hobby where you think that you know everything that there is to know about the hobby, you might as well hang your coil up. There's no hope for you.
Yeah, you're kidding yourself.
Right.
It's like when you meet somebody. I've never met anybody I could learn something from.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Yeah, it's just figuring out what that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of these newer detectors with these young guys that are IT type guys that read into the detector and they can squeeze the most out of them. I've learned a lot out of those guys, and I tell them, I said, I'm knowledgeable with a detector. I said, it's you guys that really get into the nuances of understanding the coil and what's going on, the eddy currents, and I've learned so much from some of these guys that came to me and bought detectors that, I never classed myself as an expert, and there was two reasons for that. Number one, I've been in court a few times on arson fires and this kind of stuff, teaching. I was taught by some lawyers, you never tell anybody you're an expert.
Right, because they love to show you you're not.
That's right. That's their job. And then learning these detectors as they're going bigger and better and faster and more channels and more bells and whistles compared to the very first one I had was a White's Coin Master 10-turn tuner. And it was a good machine for the time. It was a $350 machine in 1972. And in today's dollars, that's about $1,000.
Right.
So,
but anymore, they're like
the
computers on
Terry's
sticks.
Right.
Yeah, I fully believe that there's a lot that I need to learn on my machines. I don't understand everything. My key to success has just been able to read the beach, and hunt where the stuff is findable. That's my key.
And have the opportunity to put that time in with the machine day after day.
Yes, I have we have at the club I belong to, they have a fines table. Everybody brings in their stuff, at the end of the month, and I really hate to do that because it's not fair. A lot of these young people are working 5 days a week. If they're lucky, they can get out a couple of days on the weekend, and I'm out there every day. So I would rather have their friendship than win a few silver dimes. That's right.
Well,
yeah, because it's funny
done,
sometimes
Terry,
how the envy comes out.
Terry, what you've done with your books is impart your knowledge so other people can learn.
Absolutely.
I mean, not a lot of people, when you go down to Florida, most of us Midwesterners and Northern tier group don't know how to read a beach, don't know how to find those bowls, the different colors in the sand you talk about, and on it goes. They've got some knowledge with a good detector that they can start out and at least have a better chance.
Well, thank you. I consider that a compliment, and but you're 100% right. You're absolutely right. A good detector, and then it's nice. I love to talk. I mean, I'm a talker, but I listen too, and that's the way you learn.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Your books impart a world of knowledge to people. Just dig through it a little bit and go after it. Now, a few times I've been on East and West Coast Florida and understand finding cuts and understand some of the bowl effect, but there's other things in your book you explain, and even to many of us, it opens up our eyes a little bit to where we at least got a fighting chance of going out and getting something.
Well, thank you. And yeah, that's important. I mean, it just, and I believe things wash up and down the beach. I really do. I had a friend that lost his gold ring right in front of where we stay here. I found it 3 days later, at least 300 or 400 yards south on the beach. And it moved that far, the gold ring. And so, if I go up to Cocoa, for example, I walk out on the beach in front of one of the main beaches, and there's 6 or 7 other guys out there with detectors, sure, there's a lot of people there, but the competition's pretty high. But if I'm out all by myself and I got a good bowl or a good cut, I beat those 6 or 7 guys big time, because I'm where the treasure's at.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Definitely.
And people with that knowledge moving up and down the beach like you and Jimmy Bones and Gary Drayton, you do pretty well, but, you never know. You can walk out and tomorrow afternoon end up with a scudo or a ring like Drayton dug up or things like you've dug up, if you just hit the right spot with some knowledge to go look for it.
You're right. You know, if you have to choose between skill and luck, take the luck.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
luck certainly
Skill
doesn't
also.
hurt.
No, I don't.
I
But
mean,
I'm
you
very
can-
tickled you're coming and hanging with us at the booth. Bring your display. I'll try and load up an extra table and see what we can get set up for you to be at out front there and have some fun. And we'll have a good day of it. I'm quite sure there'll be people wanting to talk with you, and a lot of knowledge will be imparted.
I'm really looking forward to it. And Chuck, thank you so much for inviting me. That means a lot. It really does.
We'll have a good time. I'm going to be down. I'm leaving early. The wife says we're going to a beach for a day, so we're going to probably be down in the Melbourne area, hang out, do a little detecting while she's out there if the wind isn't blowing 90 miles an hour.
You're gonna be, before the hunt, you're going to be in the Melbourne area?
Yeah.
Okay, I live in Melbourne Beach. You know, get a hold of me and come over. Bring the wife over to the house here.
Okay, I will do that. I'll message you and we'll get some info. But that's where I think we're going to jump in. We're going to probably run one day up to St. Augustine. She kind of likes wandering around up there, and there's some neat spots. And then I'll do some detecting, and then we'll hook up with you.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
All right, Terry. I'm going to back
Yeah,
out
I'm
here,
not
let you
seeing
guys-
a downside here.
What'd you say, Josh? I missed it.
I said, I'm not seeing a downside here.
Oh, no. I'm getting out of 0 degree weather. It's going back down to 8 tonight or something like that. So that's my positive side of it.
Yeah, I know it is. I just finally got us all shoveled out from the last batch.
Oh, man. And Terry, you're not missing nothing up here, buddy. This has been a cold one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's been back home. Last year they had a good winter, but this winter has been just a killer. I'm not missing a thing.
Nope. Just keep
been-
walking that beach and grin.
I was out today. I'll be out tomorrow, and I'll be out the next day. And you know, life for me is pretty good.
There you go. Do well. And I'm getting out of here. Everybody have a great night. Josh, thanks for letting me call in. Stay safe, and I'll see you on next week there, Terry.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call, Chuck. And this, your third book is primarily just stories of your adventures, but that does not mean that they can't find information that they can glean from it.
There's quite a few tips in there too. There really is. You know, maybe I repeat myself on some of the tips and that stuff, but there's a lot of information in the book. At least I think there is.
Well, and sometimes it pays to repeat those tips.
Well, they're not the same story, but the message is kind of the same. You know, I'm proud of the books. I think they come out real well. I'm real pleased.
Nice. Yes, and from what I've seen, once again, the book is very well done, very well put together, lots of nice pictures.
Yeah,
Definitely.
the only negative thing I've heard about the book is a lady called me, and on my left foot, I have a little toe that sticks straight up. It was just a birth defect, and she informed me that I should have had that erased. I don't know if she was being serious or she said, you can, I don't know what the terminology was, but I can take that off. But it's on the cover of the book. I'm standing there, I'm barefoot, and I have a little toe sticking up, and that's the only comment she had on the book. So that's my only negative comment I've had so far.
So she thought that should have been like photoshopped out of the photo or something.
Photoshopped was the word she used, yes.
Ah. Well, you can't please them all the time.
No, you can't. But thanks for talking about the book. I'm very proud of the book. It's interesting, and I got some neat stuff in there. I've found that Carlos Nuwana 2 Real. It was dated. It hasn't got a date on it, but according to the assayer, he only worked from 1544 to 1548, and that's either the oldest coin ever found on a treasure coast or one of the oldest. And that's neat. That's just really neat. When I found it, I didn't even know what it was.
Well, not to mention the fact of if you really couldn't find a good, clear date on it, that really narrows the window down.
Yeah, well, a lot of these reals, they on the cob coins, they're cut from a bar, and everyone's different, but the weight is always right spot on. And what happens on a lot of the dates that were on there, they were shaved off to get the weight down to the proper weight. So it isn't often you get a good one with dates. That first coin I had a date of 701, which is 1701. Very clear date. And I got one with a 64, which is 1664. But a lot of the dates are gone. But you can tell by the shield or by the assayer. The shield on the back, they change them, so you can narrow it down that way.
Right. And you will have not only, I'm assuming anyway, not only your newest book, your third book, but you may even have some of the first 2 books at Florida Hunt 8?
Oh, yes. Yep, I ordered a whole bunch. So, if I run out of books, it's going to be a wonderful thing.
Right, it'll be a good day.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully people come and are definitely interested in adding to their treasure library or their treasure resource, so to speak, and hopefully you don't get writer's cramp.
Well, if I do, I'll put up with it. I'd be very happy to get writer's cramp. I had a lady at this little class that I was teaching. She bought all 3 of my books, and we're going to send it to her son. And she called me up and told me to bring some more because she decided to keep hers. And I'm sure she doesn't detect, but it just pleased me.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, some of the people, I know of a couple of cases where there have been people that have won your books through the show or through the page or something like that, where they don't even necessarily detect, but they enjoy to read the books.
There's something about treasure that you can be a millionaire, and when you talk treasure, you have their total attention. I mean, treasure is a wonderful word. It really
Absolutely. It's enticing to people. We're curious by nature. It's alluring to people. And some people just hearing the stories about it is enough to drag them into the hobby and get them more immersed in the hobby. Some, they're just fine, being an armchair treasure hunter, so to speak. They like to live it vicariously through others reading their stories.
I agree. And when I was in high school, I had history, and I thought that was so foolish. I got to worry about the future. And boy, was I ever mistaken. I just love the history now. I mean, it's just so important. We learn from history.
Right.
Or at least we should.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If you don't, you're really shorting yourself. I mean, I wasn't necessarily real big on history in high school and all of that either. But once I was out of that, I couldn't get enough of it. Anything I could find to learn about the history, especially the history of the area that I was in, I was all in.
Well, I've got something exciting coming up now this summer back in Minnesota. And I'm really excited. And we'll be talking about that in my 4th book. But it's about the copper culture. And
nice.
The Romans and the Vikings, they went overland and mined copper up in northern Minnesota. And, I'm writing extensively about that. And I've got a new hookah unit. I'm going to be up there doing some diving and that stuff. and I'm excited. This next adventure I'm going to be on, it's going to be really exciting.
Nice. Sounds like we'll have to have you back on the show when you release your 4th book.
I would like that. I don't even have to. I appreciate being asked to be on your show. It's an honor. It's an honor.
It's always an honor to us to have you back on the show and be able to enjoy your company once again. I know the listeners in the chat really enjoy your stories as well.
Well, thank you.
Definitely. And for those listening, we did have a giveaway all set up that we were going to do tonight, but I've found out during the show that apparently with the weather that we've had, I'm having a little bit of an issue with the phone lines tonight. So we can't have people call in for that. But what I will do is sometime this evening or tomorrow after the show, I will make a post with a trivia question that will tie to this episode, and then we'll give people a chance to get entered into a giveaway where they can win Terry's new book, Treasure Coast. And that is actually courtesy of Mark Hoover and Adventures in History. So, shout out to him, and we will definitely get that done. Once again, my apologies to the listeners. We would have done it live tonight, but there's some sort of little, I don't know, maybe the phone lines have got the COVID. So, we'll see what's going on with that. But we will follow up with that later this evening or tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned to the Beyond Sight and Sound page, folks. Other than that, is there anything else that you had to add, Terry?
Not really. I just thank you all for out there, everybody that bought a book. I appreciate it. I appreciate it greatly. And Josh, thank you so much for having me on the show. And God bless.
All right. Hang in there with us for a few minutes, Terry. Florida Hunt 8, 12 days and counting. Obviously, for those that follow the show, you can catch Frank, Steve, and Ronnie tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, Detect America. You can catch Shelley and Dawn Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Detect America. We're here Wednesdays and Sundays, and we'll see everyone on the next one.